Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. I'm sure it's been another busy day for you all, so I'm very grateful for your time. With 1 minute off, ready to start before we start, so we'll just give it a few more seconds to allow everybody in. Okay, I think we'll get going now. Yeah, thank you again. Thank you again for joining me. My name is Finn McClelland, and I'm an education consultant and product specialist here at Renaissance. Before joining GL Education, which is now part of the Renaissance family, I spent 16 years in teaching and school leadership across the UK, South America, and Southeast Asia. During that time, I saw firsthand how powerful GL assessment data can be in improving student outcomes. So I feel very lucky that today I enjoy helping schools make the most of their data and then turning it into meaningful impact. So today we're going to be, I've got the privilege of walking you through PASS and CAT4, which are two of our key most important assessments that help schools to understand student potential, attitudes, well-being, and the hidden barriers to learning. I'll be focusing on how they fit into a whole student approach and how they work together to give you a more rounded picture of each learner. I've got my wonderful colleague Chloe in the chat, and I think she's already popping in some information there for you, just around the logistics of today. Chloe will be popping a poll onto your screen around about halfway through the presentation, which will just give you a chance to request any if you'd like to receive any further information about the two assessments. So please do complete that poll if you'd like to learn a little bit more. We will hopefully have some time for some Q&As at the end of the session as well. So if you do have any questions as we're going through, please do feel free to pop those questions into the Q&A box, and I will answer them if I can. And if I can't, we'll get back to you afterwards. Finally, at the end of the presentation, there will be a very quick survey which will pop up on your screen, which if you had 2 minutes just to share some feedback about today's session, we'd be really grateful to hear that. Okay, let's get cracking. So at Renaissance, our mission it is clear, and that is to accelerate learning for all. We strive to ensure every student, regardless of their starting point, is seen, supported, and empowered to succeed. And by leveraging our tools and insights, we do help educators drive meaningful outcomes for learners of every ability, level, and background around the world. So in today's session, we will briefly explore the research context, which is helping to shape policy and practice for supporting student well-being and the learner experience around the world. We will consider why it is important to learn about how our students feel, not just how they perform, and to understand how this is central to effective pastoral and academic support. I will be taking some time to familiarize you with the purpose and structure of PASS, which is our Pupil Attitude to Self and School Survey, how it gathers pupil perceptions to support inclusive practice. And then finally, I'll be providing some guidance on how the insights from PASS can be used and triangulated with our ability assessment, CAT4, how they can be triangulated to tier support and personalize interventions and track changes over time. So, if the global pandemic taught us anything, it is a necessity to balance high quality education with high quality support for children and young people's social and emotional development. Andreas Scheisler, who is the Director of Education and Skills at the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, that's a mouthful, suggests that the development of strong social and emotional skills should not be assumed. He notes that schools should be making intentional steps to support this through the design of learning environments and systems of organization. But how important is the voice of the student in these design processes? Well, research has long assimilated children's well-being in school to a strong sense of belonging, their connectedness to learning environments and educational experiences. According to a UNICEF report in 2021, children who experience a strong sense of belonging at a school are 66% less likely to engage in risky behaviors and show significantly higher academic achievement. On the screen here are some findings from across several OECD research papers which focus on factors which might influence this perception of belonging. These include positive relationships with adults and peers, and crucially, personalized support when students are struggling. In addition to this, a recent ISC report on well-being also stated the importance of embedding well-being into school culture, integrating well-being into the curriculum, and measuring well-being through data, which is where our PASS survey really comes into its own, and I'll be talking to you more about that shortly. So, what steps can we take to pursue and protect student well-being? Well, involving all members of the school community, in collaboration to foster a positive ethos and a calm, safe, and supportive environment, they are key elements for promoting students' mental health and well-being. Using reliable data to design and integrate universal provision within the wider curriculum helps to build that holistic approach to well-being development, which in turn leads to students feeling safe, valued, and engaged at school. Targeted interventions can then be implemented to address needs early, helping to build resilience and develop skills for navigating challenges and setbacks. As the hierarchy illustration, and this is from Sunshine Support, as it demonstrates, we must align school climate with a learner's needs and values in order for students to feel connected as a member of the wider school community. So, how do we capture students' needs? Well, of course, we capture it through their voice. Whatever their age, their voice should be central to our drive for improving their well-being. This term, student or pupil voice, is often linked to Article 12 of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. Some practitioners consider the protection of children's rights as the primary focus for capturing pupil voice, while others consider it as being fundamental to democratic education. Over time, it has become closely associated with school improvement initiatives as a means of identifying strategies for improving teaching and learning, to shape pedagogical approaches, and to develop strategies to improve pupil-teacher relationships and facilitate pupils' well-being. By listening to their views and involving them in decisions, we build student agency and promote a more positive environment in which students feel respected and seen. Well-being can be influenced by many factors, one of which is the learner's own perception. This perception, in turn, can influence educational outcomes across the curriculum. Research from the International Literacy Association found that students with positive reading self-concepts are 3.2 times more likely to score at or above grade level in reading assessments compared to peers with negative self-perceptions, regardless of actual initial ability. We've done some of our own research using our PASS data, and we found similar connections between specific attitudes and reading attainment. And you can read about more about the latter two studies via the QR links on the screen here. Poor perception of ability is also known to impact other areas of learning, including mathematics. As Professor Steve Chin notes in the British Dyslexia Association's publication, Dyscalculia, Assessment, Teaching and Psychology, a student's self-perception and belief in their mathematical ability can have a more significant impact on their achievement than their actual cognitive capacity. So when learners develop mathematics anxiety or believe they cannot succeed in maths, this negative mindset becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, creating a cycle where fear leads to avoidance, which further diminishes opportunities to develop skills and confidence. So, with all that in mind, I would ask you to consider the steps you take in your own schools to understand students' voice in order to improve their well-being and your school's climate and culture. Many students struggle with engagement, well-being, or confidence, but these challenges often go unnoticed until they impact behavior, engagement, or achievement. Without clear and measurable insights into attitudes to learning, strategies and interventions can be reactive rather than proactive, risking wasted efforts and missed opportunities to improve engagement and outcomes. So, how do you ensure your support is targeted effectively? Well, this is where PASS comes in. PASS is our pupil attitude to self and school survey, which allows teachers to quickly identify learners that may be fragile and lacking in confidence. It identifies non-academic barriers related to 9 key factors that could be impacting or go on to impact engagement and or learning outcomes. PASS, especially when combined with CAT4, helps to reveal some hidden challenges that might have otherwise been overlooked. Now, to introduce PASS to you, I'd love to share a pupil story which illustrates the impact this important survey can have. I mean, I do love that case study. So Daniel is a student who we would describe as a fragile learner, someone who his CAT4 cognitive ability data has shown that he had enormous potential to achieve. He had the ability to achieve, but his lack of self belief was the key thing which was holding him back. And it was the PASS survey which showed that and identified that he really needed support building up his confidence. So I do love that case study. I think it's such an important story to tell. So what is PASS? Well, the PASS survey investigates students' feelings in 9 key and comprehensive attitudinal factors. We have the factors in yellow, which are related to the student and are internal. Factors in purple are external, which are related to the school environment, and then we have the factors in red, which kind of cross over and are controlled by both the student and the school. PASS is typically used twice per academic year. Firstly, after students have had time to settle into a new class or year group, and then again ahead of any key points of transition. It can be used with students aged 4 to 18 and is broadly accessible to all learners with audio and written content available in the digital survey. We also have translations into 27 different languages, which can be used to support students who don't have English as their first language. It only takes about 15 to 20 minutes to complete, and the results are available for immediate analysis following the test. PASS data can be invaluable at key transition points, such as when starting a new school or moving up a year. As I mentioned, it's best practice to allow around 2 months into the school year before you administer the survey for the first time. This will ensure the students have settled into their new environments and classrooms. And then once students have completed their survey, the next step is to obviously analyze the data. Once you have identified your key areas of focus and with whom this is needed, which may be at a whole cohort, group, or individual level, you can then make effective use of the interventions. Once strategies and support have been put into place, the PASS survey should then be re-administered. And we would advise that this takes place a minimum of 12 weeks after its first administration. An analysis of this new set of data using our over time report will help you to compare your previous PASS data. This will then allow you to evaluate changes in scores and identify the future areas of priority. At a strategic level, across a group of schools, PASS reporting insights can help determine collective strengths or areas for improvement, helping to foster a stronger climate and culture. The data is provided as a non-standardized measure, which allows stakeholders to understand the levels of positivity within their school and across their pupils. But it is also given as a standardized measure, which allows schools to compare their students across a large standardization sample of students. And the RAG color coding you can see here makes the data very easy to understand and draws the eyes to pupils and areas of concern. Using the PASS survey for repeat administrations will help to monitor and identify changes over time. And this is crucial to better track individuals or groups of learners that experience continued barriers, helping you to inform the decisions you're making regarding support and interventions, and ultimately enabling all learners with the necessary language skills to thrive. So those students who are completing PASS level 1, and these are our younger students, so sort of 5 to 7-year-olds, they are given just 2 response choices when answering the questions given to them, and they will have each of the statements read aloud to them via audio included in the survey. For our older students, so students 8 above, 8 to sort of 18, they would complete PASS levels 2 to 4, and this time they would choose from 4 options to indicate how much they agree or disagree with each statement. Like with the PASS level 1, learners can also have each of the statements read aloud to them via audio included in the survey. So again, this is just a larger image of how the data is presented. So you can see the 9 factors are, are, are illustrated here, and you've got the mean percentages of, so that's the mean percentage of positive responses for each of the factors, and that is for your school, for your school's data, for your cohort. And then below that, you've got the comparison to the standardized sample. And again, as with all of our reporting, you can view the data through different focuses. So in this case, gender, but it's also possible to see the data for if you wanted to view your students who have specific learning difficulties, if you wanted to view your students who have English as an additional language. As long as that data is populated on your TestWise platform, then that will appear automatically within the reporting. So you can really drill down into your data and see those important focus groups for your school. And here, this is the individual students analysis. So where it says tutor group on the left there, if you imagine to the left would be the pupils' names. And this is where it really does allow you to drill down and look at each individual and see how they have responded to each of those 9 factors. And again, the RAG color coding system really does draw your eye to the pupils who have responded negatively to the factors. But crucially, the students where it's a better, more positive picture, there may still be 1 or 2 factors where they feel less positive about, which could have a crucial impact on how they're doing in school. So it really does allow you to look at each pupil individually and really gain those crucial insights into how they feel about themselves and how they feel about the school. Now, PASS not only provides schools with the data sets at cohort and individual level, but it also provides interventions that are linked to each of those 9 attitudinal factors, which provides teachers with the next steps and activities to think about and embed at either a whole school, class, or individual level. And again, all of this guidance, all of these intervention ideas, practical ideas, these have all been created in collaboration between psychologists and educators. So you know that you are going to be using evidence-based interventions with confidence. And it means that colleagues will be increasingly confident to spot the signs of any early barriers, meaning that needs can be addressed sooner and are less likely to be missed. The post survey support also offers these key questions like self-evaluation type questions, which really help you to get to the bottom of your data, allowing you to interrogate what the information means for an individual child or young person, for groups of fragile learners. But it also allows you to focus on the strategic changes that you may want to consider, or areas that you need to focus on more in your setting. So these self-evaluation questions really do ask you to analyze what you're currently doing to support your students in terms of well-being and barriers to learning, and to reflect on the things that you could be doing more of or things you could be doing differently. And again, these interventions, they are built on tried and tested research-informed practice, and they're very much designed to help hold a teacher's hand as they scaffold support for their learners. If your school is part of a group, our reporting allows you to compare data across different schools as well. So you're able to see if there are any similarities or discrepancies across your schools. And as with all of our assessments, we really do have a wealth of support available to help you confidently administer PASS, but also to crucially get the most from your data. And this includes interactive insight tools, training resources, case studies, regular webinars, and we have a whole army of teachers within the company who can be on hand to provide bespoke data consultations as well. I do want to just finish with before we move on to CAT4, I'd just like to just finish with listening to Nick Jensen, who is a principal at a school in New Zealand, I just wanted to share his thoughts on the impact that PASS has made in his fairly unique setting.
Even though we're small, even though, I know every single child here, we never assumed that we knew how the children were feeling about school. We weren't prepared to assume. We made the deliberate choice to use PASS to try and get underneath the mask, because kids are little geniuses. They know exactly how to hide their feelings. And we wanted to get the evidence behind us to prove that what we were doing was working, so that we could carry on our journey and continue to make a difference, I hope. We couldn't allow ourselves to delay that or to risk it by not spending that money on a third teacher. We couldn't just hope for the best. We couldn't just tell the children, you'll be all right, you're okay. By the time you get to being a senior, the other kids will be feeling the same way you're feeling. That's not an excuse we were prepared to take. So I really encourage you, if you're in any position where you can develop a little bit more awareness of the well-being of your children in your school, no matter whether you're a tiny school in the middle of absolutely nowhere like we are, or if you're a massive 1,000, 2,000 student international school, what does it matter? At the end of the day, they're all kids, they all need help, they all have a story, and we've all got a professional responsibility to do what we can to support these kids.
Yeah, I do. Again, I think it's a great message from Nick. He speaks very well, and he's quite right. All students do have their own story, and we think we know our students, but do we really? Those very quiet, well-behaved students who don't necessarily rear their head on a day-to-day basis. Are we giving them the opportunity to really express how they feel about themselves and their self-belief and how they feel about the school? PASS really does allow them to do that without the need to articulate it in front of their peers or directly to their teacher. There's a couple of QR codes on the screen there, which I would encourage you to scan. There's a podcast and and another case study, which if you want to look at in your own time, more schools to discuss how PASS has been used to identify fragile learners and target support. Okay, so I've asked the question around how well do you know your students from a pastoral or well-being perspective. I'm now going to ask you to consider how well you understand your students' strengths and potential. And I'm going to introduce you to the cognitive abilities test 4, which is far better known as CAT4. Now, for those unfamiliar to CAT4, the cognitive ability test is a curriculum neutral assessment of the 4 main types of reasoning ability which are known to make a difference to learning and achievement. So these are verbal reasoning, which assesses a student's ability to express ideas and reasoning through words, obviously vital for managing language-heavy subjects. Quantitative reasoning it assesses a student's ability to use numerical skills to solve problems, and this obviously provides a clear illustration of a student's potential in mathematics. But the skills obviously apply well beyond just maths. Non-verbal reasoning assesses a student's problem-solving ability using pictures and diagrams. Skills essential in a wide range of subjects, including maths and science. And finally, spatial reasoning, which assesses a student's ability to think and draw conclusions in 3 dimensions. A skill which is not easily measured by other data sets, but it is a skill which is crucial for subjects which rely on spatial abilities, such as art, design, technology. And a crucial thing about CAT4 is because it is validated every year and based on an analysis of 25,000 students, you know that the data you get from CAT4 is both accurate and reliable, trustworthy. At a high level, our approach at Renaissance is built around three simple ideas: assess, adapt, and accelerate. And CAT4 very much sits at the heart of all three. Firstly, we assess. CAT4 helps you understand how students think and learn beyond attainment. Now, used alongside subject or literacy assessments, it gives a clearer picture of strengths, barriers, and potential, whether that's language, STEM reasoning, SEND, or English as an additional language. It provides the evidence you can share confidently with all stakeholders in your school community. Next, we adapt. Now, with those insights, teachers and the provision that they're providing to their students can be tailored far more precisely. CAT4 supports more inclusive classrooms by helping your teachers to adapt their curriculum, strategies, and support to meet different learner needs without lowering expectations. And finally, accelerate. CAT4 doesn't just diagnose, it informs actions. Our strategies for learning and teacher guidance builds confidence, support independence, and helps learners develop those critical thinking, problem solving, and resilience skills across multiple subjects. So, in short, CAT4 helps you to understand your learners better, teach them more effectively, and it ensures every student is challenged and supported in line with their potential. Because it is an assessment of cognitive ability, well, I'm going to stop for a second and I need to remind Chloe to pop the poll into the screen. There you go. She's done it. Well done, Chloe. If you would like to learn more about PASS and CAT4, please do complete that poll, and we will reach out to you following this webinar. Because it is an assessment of cognitive ability and not an attainment test, there is no requirement for students to draw upon curriculum content or to revise and practice for the assessments. What we are doing when we administer CAT4 is finding out what the students' natural abilities are in reasoning with words, 2D shapes, 3D shapes, and visualization, as well as number. In fact, when you have students with lower levels of English language acquisition, the only battery from the four batteries that requires any level of language is the verbal reasoning. So as you can see from the example questions here, the other three batteries, the quantitative, non-verbal, and spatial, do not require any English whatsoever. So even if you have a student who is at the very beginning of their journey to acquire English, you are still going to get some key insights into those three areas of reasoning which don't require English at this point. And then obviously as their English develops, you would expect that their verbal ability to also improve at the same time. So just a few things about the way that CAT4 is administered. It's an assessment which can be used either as a digital or paper-based assessment. We would generally recommend the digital testing where possible. For our youngest students, 6 to 8 year olds, it's a shorter version of the assessment, so just two lots of 30 minutes. For our older students, so from 8 up to 17, there are 3 parts to the test. Each one takes about 45 minutes. However, that does include practice questions, instructions, any administration advice. The actual timed element of the test that the students have would be about 30 minutes for each of those 3 parts. And we would strongly recommend that those 3 sections are spread out over a week, so that the students are not sitting them one after the other, because we certainly don't want fatigue to render the results as less than reliable. So it's important the students do have a good break in between each of the 3 parts of the test. Now our assessments all fit into this what we call our learning loop, which looks a bit like a pretzel. And with CAT4, as again we've mentioned already, because it assesses students, it doesn't provide that deep understanding of your students' cognitive abilities alongside what you are seeing from their current attainment. This then allows teachers to adapt what they're doing, how they are providing their education for their students to ensure that the students are able to learn to the best of their abilities and using that carefully crafted, personalized support in order to accelerate learning. So that students, no matter their ability, their potential, that they can work to their true potential. So again, some key things just to understand about CAT4. It is that curriculum neutral assessment of the main types of reasoning ability. Excuse me. Typically used at key points of transition. It can be used from the students from the age of 6 all the way to 17 on paper or digital. When taken digitally, the results can be generated immediately following the test. If it's a paper test, then you would need to return the papers to us to mark them for you and generate the reports for you. If your school is already using some of our other assessments, such as our new group reading test or our progress tests in English and maths, you can triangulate your CAT4 data with those attainments using what we call our combination reports, which provide these discrepancy categories, which essentially gives you an all-round view of each pupil's attainment and informs you whether the students' attainment levels are what they should be when compared to the natural ability levels from CAT4. But the CAT4 is essentially about putting all your learners firmly on the map by providing that holistic cognitive profile, assessing their verbal, quantitative, non-verbal, and spatial reasoning for that comprehensive view of your students' potential. That recognition of spatial skills, so often missed by standard tests, is vital for identifying where those hidden strengths may lie and where the students where they have that talent to work and visualize in 3D, where they're going to be particularly effective in some of the STEM subjects. CAT4 really does uncover strengths in students with reading difficulties, your English EAL learners, and for those with those special educational needs. But crucially, it also provides a standardized, because it's standardized on 25,000 students, it provides that robust and reliable benchmarking and prediction, so that you've got those effective examination indicators which can help guide education planning effectively. Again, CAT4 is helping you to understand your learners more holistically by making use of that deep understanding of their reasoning abilities to identify hidden potential or barriers that may inhibit academic success. Used across primary and secondary settings, it will provide you with that individual profile of ability so that you know what the strengths and challenges are for each individual, so that you can ensure that the students are going to be catered for and their education is going to be personalized to meet the challenges that they face. Crucially, it will also help to identify those gifted students who have the potential or the natural ability to achieve at the very highest levels. It's going to be that reliable baseline for which to plan and aspirational outcomes. But for SENCOs, it's going to also provide a detailed and holistic understanding of the individual strengths and challenges, particularly when triangulated with attainment and attitudinal data. I'll talk to you a bit more about that in a minute. Your math lead are going to want to focus on the quantitative and spatial abilities to indicate potential maths attainment. So it really is an assessment which talks to so many different stakeholders within that school community. There's a wide range of reporting, including reports for parents. So you can really ensure that your parents are partners and that they understand what they can do at home to support their children, and they have that understanding of the learner profile of their children, where their strengths are, where they're likely to succeed, the direction that they might want to go in when it comes to making choices about subjects or even careers. There's even reports for the students themselves so that they can understand better, where their strengths lie and the choices that they might want to make because of these strengths. When used alongside alongside tutors or career officers. These can be really powerful for handing back the power to the students to understand, what decisions am I going to make, knowing what I know about myself. So, this wide range of reporting. There's a report for the senior leadership group as well, which provides that top level summary of the year group, so they can see what is the potential of this student of this year group. What is this year group likely to go on and achieve? What are our expectations for this cohort? So CAT4 really does allow you to tailor your teaching by highlighting different cognitive strengths the students bring into the classroom. On the left, you'll see verbal learners. Now, these are the students who often excel in discussion, debate, reading, and expressive writing. They benefit from talk-based activities, rich texts, and opportunities to explain their thinking in words. Below that, here are our quantitative learners. Now, these students are very comfortable with number, calculation, and patterns in data. They thrive when lessons include problem solving, logical steps, and opportunities to explore relationships through numbers. And then on the right, we have our spatial learners who are quick to visualize. Diagrams, models, graphics, and 3D representations really support their understanding, something which is especially powerful in science, maths, and design subjects. And then finally, we have our non-verbal learners who enjoy puzzles and abstract reasoning. They may think more comfortably in images or numbers than in words. So tasks that allow problem solving without heavy language demands can be very effective, particularly in an international multilingual context. So the key takeaway that I want you to take from this is that CAT4 doesn't label students, but it gives us insight. By varying how we present content and how students show learning, we create more inclusive, effective classrooms for all our learners. And again, you can plan aspirational learning opportunities by making use of the future performance indicators in order to evaluate each learner's potential or future academic outcomes. When used alongside our new group reading test or progress tests in English and maths, our combination reports will compare the natural ability with their attainment scores, helping to discern where there may be a discrepancy between ability and attainment, helping you to identify students where students may be coasting or where some may be experiencing barriers. Future performance indicators, again, crucial when transitioning from primary to secondary. Teachers are empowered to set those aspirational goals for every student, whilst being confident in a reliable baseline from which to plan the early data-informed teaching and learning decisions. And again, we also offer retrospective Key Stage 2 scaled scores. So if your students are arriving into year 7 at the beginning of secondary school and you don't have any of that sort of data, CAT4 can provide that for you. So if you do use CAT4 in your school, you have the option and you may wish to triangulate your CAT4 and your PASS data. Now, a way that we suggest doing this is by plotting the mean CAT4 score against the perceived learning capabilities to gain greater insights to your students. Now, those with high CAT4 and high perceived learning capability, they're likely to achieve their potential as they have a very positive view of their abilities, their above average abilities. Those with low scores for both, so students who have a below average mean SAS, but also a low perceived learning capability, they are undoubtedly going to benefit from mentoring, very close mentoring supports. Learners that perceive themselves as less capable than their CAT4 results indicate, so their CAT4 scores are suggesting that they have got the natural ability to achieve and to succeed. However, their perceived learning capability is showing that they really do not have that self-belief. These are the students we would consider as fragile. And these are the students who are certainly worth monitoring to to ensure that they're lower than reality, self-perception does not become a barrier to success. These are our successful learners, a bit like Daniel in the case study we looked for PASS a little earlier. So we're coming to the end here. How does CAT4 help teachers adapt their learning? Well, the CAT4 Strategies for Learning Guide offers actionable ideas to support learners by building on those strengths and addressing development areas. Teachers can use insights from CAT4 to tailor lesson content and ensure all students are engaged and included. As I've mentioned already, we have these fantastic free training resources. Online CAT4 training helps educators to understand and apply the assessment data effectively. And schools have got the option to book in one-to-one sessions with our assessment insights team, which is made up of former teachers and school leaders, to provide that deeper understanding and personalized support. And we very much regard all of our schools as partners, and we are very much here to provide that ongoing support through the process to ensure that schools are always making the most of the data to inform what they're doing in the classroom. Okay, I'm going to stop there, and we'll have a little look into see if what I've got in the Q&As. Let me see. Any questions have come in? Some interesting points here. Sahar has said, teachers are already stretched so thin with heavy workloads. What are some quick, low-stress ways they can check in on a student's emotional well-being every day without feeling like they are just adding another chore to their to-do list? And that's a really good point. I mean, obviously, PASS is something which we would suggest administering twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year if required. But that should always be used hand in hand on what teachers are seeing on a day-to-day basis. You are the ones who see them come into the classroom. You're the ones who can see their body language. You are the ones who are going to notice, excuse me, if has been a change in their behaviour, or if they're reacting differently to how they would do normally. You can never take that away. The teacher part of it is always going to be the most important. All that passes is that extra toolbox to allow the students to articulate how they feel without always having to verbalize it, and to have that data to back up what your suspicions might be or what your feelings and thoughts might be. I don't think I've got anything else has come in. Okay. Well, I think we'll stop there then. Thank you so much again for joining me. Just as a reminder, when we end the webinar, oh, there's one in the Q&A box. There's one more question in the Q&A. Let me see where I can find. Oh, there we go. Got it. How might we use star reading tests? Thank you, Devon. How might we use star reading tests along CAT4 and PASS data? Does it have any value? We use all 3, but currently do not triangulate them, and I would like to do that. But I mean, really, really good question, Devon. And absolutely, no matter what the attainment test is, whether it's a GL attainment test, whether it's a Renaissance star test, or something completely different, we would always encourage you to be looking at that data alongside the CAT4. So in this example, you've mentioned star reading. We would greatly encourage you to be looking at the star standard age scores and comparing those to the verbal standard age score from CAT4. Absolutely. And particularly if there is a big discrepancy there. So let's say that the CAT4 verbal score is considerably higher than the star reading standard age score. One of the things we would absolutely encourage you to do is then pull in that PASS data and have a look, what's going on with that student. Is there something that we can see from the PASS data which may be related to self-belief, the student's perception of themselves? It may be an attitudinal thing. It could be one of many things, but the PASS data will provide those insights into those questions. We often talk about PASS being that missing piece of the jigsaw. So if you are identifying students, whether it's in reading, English, maths, who are underachieving, and they're underachieving because CAT4 is telling you that they've got the ability to be doing better, then we need to investigate these students. And this is where PASS is crucial for helping you to do that. And again, it has to be used alongside everything else you're seeing and what you know about the students. You've got that context. PASS is the data, and then the post survey insights to support you with that one. Great question though, Devon. Thank you. Thanks very much, Devon. Okay, I don't think there's any more questions. What I would say now is just if you don't mind just holding on for 2 minutes once we end the webinar, just to give us some feedback on the survey, we'd be really grateful. But other than that, I will let you get on with your evening, and thank you again so much for joining me. I do appreciate it. It is the end of your day. Thank you so much, Asma. That's a lovely comment there, and I'm really pleased that you've taken some ideas from this. Thank you so much. Okay, guys, have a great evening. Thank you again for joining me, and we'll speak again. We'll speak again soon.